What's up, what's up, what's up? This build is the Bandai 1/48 scale Snowspeeder from The Empire Strikes Back. I love the design of this ship. I have ever since I saw the movie. I am going to light this kit. All the lights are in the cockpit, and this is small, so it's going to be a fun challenge to put all the lights in this little bitty space. I'm not sure I'm going to do the lasers yet. I haven't decided. But without further ado, let's get it. There are 5 sprues in this kit. There's 2 larger ones here, 2 smaller ones, and then the one for the lasers, the clear piece, which I'm not going to use. I have the fine molds kit of the Snowspeeder also, and this kit is far superior. The detail is a lot more accurate, specifically in the cockpit. The cockpit seats, the side panels, the instrument panels, everything is a lot more detailed and a lot more accurate. Just by looking at it right here, I really like this kit. And Bandai. Hats off to Bandai for taking the time and the effort to get it as close to right as possible. Even the pilots, the detail is just extremely crisp. So I'm going to start cutting these apart and doing some sub-assemblies, and then we'll come back with the next step. These are the pieces that make up the cockpit along with the pilots. And there are decals like these side panels here that you use to put on the side panels here. So what I need to do is I need to prep my pilots on some sticks so I can paint them, and then paint my interior pieces for the cockpit, and then apply the decals. I've primed the pilots and the cockpit parts with Vallejo's black surface primer. Now I'm going to airbrush the mechanical parts on the inside with Vallejo's Model Air gunmetal metalizer. I've sprayed the interior parts with the gunmetal metalizer. You can see the difference in the color between the black primer on the figure and then the gunmetal metalizer. It just kind of makes it look a little bit more like metal. So now I'm going to dry brush just some regular model color gunmetal gray. And the brush I'm using is an old number 5. And what I did is I just cut the ends off with scissors and tried to make it as flat as possible. So what that does is it still leaves me enough flexibility to get good drag over the piece, and there's still enough bristle in there to hold enough paint to be able to do the job I need it to do. So don't throw away your old brushes. Just cut them off and use them for dry brushes for as long as they last. I've done a real light dry brush on here with that gunmetal gray. It'll be real hard to see it here on the camera because it's so subtle. But it does do what I wanted to do, and of course decals are going to go on top, and then there's some more details to go on. So I'm going to put another dry brush on there, this time with the Model Air medium C gray. You can see that dry brushing the medium C gray has toned down the shininess compared to this piece that I haven't done yet. So I'm going to dry brush all the rest of the pieces now. I'm going to be painting the pilots and then some of the stuff on the interior of the cockpit. This is the brush I'm using. It's a very long bristle thin brush. It's a Vallejo brush and it's train color. It has no marking on it as to whether it's a 0 or a 00. I think it came with some paint actually in a kit where you buy some paint and you get a brush with it, so I can't tell you what kind of brush it is, but this is what I'll be using. Wanted something a little different on the interior, not just all the same color, to kind of break it up and give it some contrast. So the padded sections back here behind all the greeblies I did in a Model Air light gray green. A lot of the military airplanes have some sort of green on the interior, so that's why I went with that. And then these 3 little cylinders here, I went and painted part of those with the Model Air NATO black. And I still want to put a lighter green tip on the top of these cylinders because I noticed it in the film. Working on the figures, I took some GarageKits.us neutral gray, and I sprayed it down and on the sides. You can still see the black primer on the bottom part. What this is doing is giving me some shadows. Once I put the other colors on, it'll be subtle, but you'll still be able to see a difference from light to dark. So now I'm going to spray a base coat of the light African flesh from GarageKits.us over the whole figure. And on top of that, then I'll spray some model color light orange for the suit color. All the rest of the stuff on the figure I'll hand paint with a brush. I've airbrushed the light orange. You can see I masked off the helmet and the face. So this is the light African flesh color, which was the base, and then the orange on top. Now I need to paint the white parts, the gloves, the boots, the helmet, that little part of the breastplate that's white. And I'm going to be using Game Color Bone White, and I'm going to mix that with a little bit of the Vallejo Glaze Medium. This will help not only extend the paint, but it'll give me a little more drying time since I'll be using a thinner brush. And I need to put another coat of the white on here, but this is what it looks like with the white gloves, the white boots, and the helmet. And there is a little chin strap right there, and then the top part of that white breastplate, which is also on the back, which I carried over here on the back. Now I need to do the other one. I've done some more on the pilots. The light gray area is the breast box there with the air hose. I've painted that with Model Air medium sea gray. Also the darker gray, which is this part down here at the base of the left boot, I've painted with Model Air German gray. And it's probably hard to see, but the parts in between the white on the boots I've painted with Model Air Sand Yellow. And that still looks a little light to me, so I may have to find a darker color. But I may wait until I get a wash on there and then come back in to pop the highlights so that they don't look so flat. Alright, I finished up the painting. Did the harnesses here. Did the little grips for Dax there with the Model Air NATO Black. So now I need to finish by putting the little silver on the harness buckles, and then I'm going to seal them with some satin finish. I've put a light wash on this figure. This one's still blank, and I used Vallejo's Umber Wash. I've said before in a previous video, these are really good washes. I like these. And I even diluted this down 50-50. It's half wash and half water. But it gives it some nice dark tones. And then I'll have to put the decals on, and then I'll go in and pop some of the highlights. Putting the decals on now. This decal for the control panel on the top and on the side here. It's a long decal. The other one looks like this. And all the decals for this kit obviously are fiddly, so I've got it on there using just water on the piece, and then once the decal breaks loose from the paper, slide it on there. I moved it around to get it in position using a toothpick and also using some very fine tweezers. Once I had it in place, I took my Walther's Solvaset and generously put it on. Now what the Solvaset will do is dissolve the decal into the paint and the plastic. So even when you see it all buckling like there's a raised piece right here, you just leave it alone and just let the Solvaset do its thing. It will buckle and it'll curl, but then eventually as it dries it will lay out flat. So hopefully that's what this is going to do, and when it's dry then I'll be able to see how it did, if it did the way I need it to do. Okay, I've got the decal on the side panels of the cockpit here. The Walther's is still doing its thing, so by tomorrow hopefully it'll be flat. And if I don't like it, then I'm just gonna toss everything in purple stuff and redo it all, because the cockpit is actually one of the main attraction of the whole kit, because everything's so tiny, and if everything's done right it'll look really, really good all together with the lights and all the stuff. I also finished putting the decals on the pilots here. I also put the screens on there, the visor things. I'm not too sure about the visor things. I'll see what it looks like tomorrow. Small note, these little dots on the breast box here, I actually did with a toothpick, a regular round toothpick. You just dip the end of the toothpick in the paint, and then you kind of roll it once on a paper towel to get the bulkiness off of it, and then you just, very carefully with a steady hand just do your little dots like that, and it's very effective. It works really, really good. I also use the side of a toothpick for the highlights on the side of the harness here. I use the lighter gray that I've been using throughout, and just put some on the end and wiped it off, and then just drug the toothpick along the side on that edge there, so it gave it that highlight, separate it from the darker color. I wish I could get in a little bit closer with the camera, but it'll only go so far and then it won't focus anymore. But I'm going to finish putting the decals on the rest of the cockpit components and then let those dry, and then tomorrow I will seal them with some satin varnish. So that's going to do it for part one. Part two is going to be doing the rest of the kit, the actual Snowspeeder, and then trying to figure out how I'm going to do the lighting inside the cockpit. So as always, thank you for watching, and thank you for subbing, and I will see you guys for part two.